Alrighty, take two. This is a security clearance podcast. This series is called The Sewing Machine Between Us. Cheers, bud.
Cheers,
I have fellow corpsman Dwayne with us today. He was just asking me about my neck problem. I have this thing hanging from the ceiling. The lipoma, I think, was putting pressure on my shoulder for a long time. I had that before buds, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's getting better, but also my IKEA couch doesn't help when I sleep on that and like watch TV. There's only so many positions I can.
It's like don't give you so much support.
Yeah, and it's also on like this kind of micro decline into like, the crevice. And I feel like it got really bad when Blaze was born, and I slept on the couch for like 2 months. Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, I was nervous about sleeping in the bed with him.
You don't roll over?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's everyone's fear.
yeah. And then in Europe, that's the way they do it. It's none of this. And when you go to pediatric clinic for his checkups, they're like, "And the baby sleeps where?" And we're like, "Outside of the bed in his own space." Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
We had to like memorize the whole thing. It's rather silly because the way my wife is from in Europe, they do things so differently.
Yeah.
Like goat milk formula is not allowed until a certain age, and then in Europe, everybody's if they're not breastfeeding goat milk formula. Yeah. So you just got off quarantine as well.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and you live in a small apartment.
Very small.
And with how many people could you fit on your balcony if you were doing like a college, cram everybody in a
Yeah. I'm thinking 2 shoulder widths.
So you could
probably put like 8 people.
like really nut to butt.
Nut to butt, yeah.
Yeah, and that was your vape station.
That was my vape, my enjoying a beer, a glass of whiskey, just watching the world go by for 14 days.
It was more than that,
like
wasn't
15,
it?
16,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I lost complete track.
Yeah, my wife would come home and I would just be like, I don't know what day it is. I'm 6 beers deep.
Yeah.
At
What time would you start drinking?
2.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't start drinking till my son would go to sleep because I would have to do,
Do your dad do
some responsible shit.
Yeah.
If you make a foul that you might normally make with your child, like say he bumps his mouth on something,
Right.
and you just so happen to be drinking, it's like, I feel like such a garbage human being because of that, even though it's a normal thing. Like,
Right. Yeah, we don't have that responsibility yet.
Yeah. So you're from Florida.
Oh yeah.
What was growing up in Florida like?
Dude, I was kind of a beach bum.
Yeah.
A lot of fishing.
Where'd you grow up in?
So good old Hillsborough County down in Tampa.
Is that on the west side or the east side down?
So it's the west coast on the Gulf Coast.
Okay, the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, the Gulf Coast.
So I share that body of water.
Yeah, the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. That was interesting for Katrina.
Yeah.
For Katrina, I played a football game and I was at a Christian school and we went to a school retreat.
Right.
Our classes were like 40 people per class. So they took the entire high school to this like retreat, this compound in Mississippi on the coast. Katrina comes, we have to hurry this up, get everybody home, and that whole compound washed away into the Gulf. Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember being at home and watching like just aerial footage of just like the levees broke, just houses underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How old were you when that shit went down?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I was a junior in high school.
I had to at least been in elementary, maybe about to go in middle school.
Yeah.
So yeah, around that.
That's crazy. Did y'all lock shit down?
No, so there's a thing in Florida. It's kind of funny. So if it's no bigger than a Category 4, we don't leave.
Yeah.
So when they originally, how I remember, we went through the Eye of Charlie, and it was a Category 4, and that's when we made this rule up in our house, like if it's no bigger than a 4 or 5, we won't leave.
Yeah.
Charlie was like a 4, almost a 5 when it went over us.
Yeah.
That was crazy. So.
What kind of risk of flooding does that neighborhood you grew up in?
So, Tampa Bay is pretty unique. So if a hurricane runs right up, because we're think like a bowl,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kind of like how Louisiana, well, New Orleans is.
Mm-hmm.
If a hurricane with the if tides are right and with what they're expecting for the storm surge, if it comes in right at the right time, you'll get at least 8 to 12 foot surge going well into the city.
I'm always impressed by you probably are more familiar with this term. I didn't learn this until like 4 years ago. A waterman. You know what a waterman is?
No.
Someone that just, whether it's rivers, creeks, ocean, ponds, they understand the water, how to use the water. It's their wilderness. Instead of like a woodsman, a waterman.
Right.
And I'm always very impressed by people that read the surf tides coming in and it's doing this and the moon's doing that shit. This is very interesting to me. I thought.
No, yeah, so it was crazy. So now we talk about that. When Maria came through, and I think it was probably 2018. It was right before I shipped out. We have this city, this river that goes through downtown Tampa. It's a brackish water. How the tides pulled all the water out because this big hurricane was coming through. You could literally walk onto this river.
That's so crazy.
You could just walk in, and there's beached dolphins and
beach dolphins.
Yeah.
You never. Joe Rogan talks about that. You never really hear about like dolphins getting into trouble.
Yeah, I think. Well, they're super smart.
Yeah.
So like, if they get themselves in trouble, they're really in trouble.
Yeah, some drastic shit happened pretty quickly.
Yeah, we had our sea cows, our manatees. They were beached too.
You ever have any close calls with like the ocean or the water?
The only time is when you go on a canoe, but that's just because canoes, by their nature, they really are tippy.
Yeah.
So.
When I was training to go in the Marine Corps, my friend Christian was training to go the SEALs.
Yeah.
I thought they were like the same thing. But no. And we used to go swimming every day, and we went swimming 3 days after a really big storm at the what's it called? At a delta. Where the river goes into the lake.
Right. Yeah.
And it was really hard current pushing everything out, dude. I thought I was going to drown. I made it, but, obviously. I thought I was going to fucking drown, man. And he thought he was going to have to go get, like, the Coast Guard. He's much better swimmer.
Right.
How'd you get into swimming? You're a very good swimmer, are you not?
Yeah, I swam in college, but I initially got into it because I almost drowned. I think that's how a lot of Floridians get into it.
Yeah.
It's water or peninsula. Yeah, I almost drowned when I was like 3.
Oh, shit.
So my mom went in and got me. And then after that, she was like, if you ever want to go in and play with your sisters or your friends, you gotta learn how to swim. So like the next time I got in, I got on my floaties and then got stronger.
Yeah.
So
I learned how to swim before I was 5 because I remember our second home we ever lived in that I was a part of. When I moved, like they are loud upstairs.
Yeah.
Almost immediately, I turned 5, and so anything I remember before that, I have a very good tick mark in my brain. Like, and down the street, I used to floaties and all that. In my neighbor's pool, she used to give swim lessons. We got popsicles after.
There you go.
Always reward,
right
reward yourself with sugar, and you get that brain synapses going.
Yeah.
Fire up them electrons. So you're recently promoted.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
I recently got orders, and what I thought, I was like, man, you probably would have felt pretty bad if you secured orders and you got that promotion, and I'm just like looking like a sad dog.
No, it's good you got orders, and it's good that they give you an HM3 bill because that's another thing that's due for you.
Yeah.
Because I know we're going to go through this whole process of getting your rank reinstated.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, and I think you deserved it, where other people I know didn't.
Yeah.
I don't see anyone else deserving. I don't interact with anyone else besides the ED, the emergency department.
Right.
But yeah, man, I know you were a teeny bit like, oh yeah, like you're happy, but also like,
I immediately thought about others who deserved it more than me. Actually, there's definitely like including you and yourself. There's just our advancement exam, how it's set up. There's just so many
Yeah.
of us that we have to go pursue these other avenues to get promoted. And trust me, there's plenty of people
Yeah.
before me that deserve it. So
Debatable.
yeah,
I think I know you're being humble, but I think you deserved it, and congratulations.
thank you.
It's probably, I mean, we're very junior in the Navy,
Right.
but I've heard that first step into petty officer world is the hardest, and then after that they kind of click along a little faster.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know more. You know,
Yeah,
you're not this guy, you know what I'm saying? You know who I'm referring to. So, and you always make me when I'm just like, man, I'm not with this shit. I'm not really medical savvy, and you're like, dude, you're much better than you think.
Oh yeah. Dude, when we get those new guys coming in, you're like, and you see yourself, you're asking them questions like, remember when we just came to the ER?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know jack shit.
Yeah.
And now you're like, remember when, who was talking about the tinnitus? And you were talking about like how inside of our ears is like hair likes. And
I was talking to Bennett, which is he knew more because of his mother's
being deaf, yeah.
being deaf.
Yeah.
But it might have been someone else as well. But I find stuff interesting, but when it comes to technical shit, like Miss Felicia comes and grabs you because you're interested in like learning drug names, and she kind of gives you a little
Right. A little lesson.
lesson.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
I've stated on one of these podcasts, I think you're going to become an officer.
Uh,
I know you have big reservations with that, but
Yeah.
I think it would behoove of you, and also I just see that in you.
yeah.
I think you have that.
We'll see where the Navy takes it. There's a lot of stuff I want to do, including like finish my degree,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think that a lot of the reservations that we're also used to being civilians, we want to get back to it, but
You are.
we're doing our work.
This makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, and then in that, it's weird. This is very civilian, even now, especially now.
Oh, yeah.
So I go from Marine Corps to SEAL training to not SEAL training to regular sloppy Navy
Right.
to hospital.
Hospital joint.
Try. Let's
Yeah.
try civilian, and then Army Navy.
Right. Even
There's
though
Air
there's a
Force
sprinkle of
somewhere.
Air Force in there. I don't know. Family medicine. I don't know real well.
Yeah. Someone was telling me like Air Force is only there to do like one or two jobs.
Yeah, so I hear that they're really based out of JBAT, and they come to family medicine to just keep hours. And
Yeah.
that's really all they do. No, they get hazard pay for being there, or they get some incentive for being there.
Here's a little story.
Right.
I was in 29 Palms, you know this, as a infantry marine.
Mm-hmm.
29 Palms was established by the Army.
Right.
They set up the perimeter, they tried to live there, and eventually they deemed that place uninhabitable. But they had a skeleton of a structure there, and the Marine Corps said, we'll take it.
Right.
So it's all very interesting to me. Now Boyd is telling me, he's like, dude, why are 0311s, which are riflemen, why are they such like babies? I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Subjective,
Yeah, it's a very objective, anecdotal,
Yeah.
Thing.
Right.
But I don't know. What kind of pushed you towards going military? Because I've talked to people. I've talked to one person in Oregon. It was a female, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm in this community college to become a nurse."
Right.
I was like, "You should check out the military because they'll pay for all that shit." She's like, Years later, I see on Snapchat she became an Army nurse. I was like, "Fuck yeah,"
Yeah.
So some people either people I've met have made that decision,
Right.
or have just thought about it. That's the only person I've ever met that was thinking about it and then tipped the scale over to I'm going to do this.
So this is gonna be kind of a long story. So back when I was fresh out of high school, I was talking to a Marine recruiter. I never told you about this.
Right.
So I was gonna and I was gonna go to be a I guess air crew chief or air crew something. I was gonna go do maintenance with air wings.
They have the air wing.
On the air wings, right? Backed out because my college coach was just like, dude, come on, don't go. So I was like, all right, cool. So I went and swam. I studied. I was majoring in biology, but pre-professional, so it was like pre-med.
Pre-med.
Right. School's getting expensive. I had, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife. She was like, "Hey, how about you move back to Florida? Let's get closer." So going, applied to nursing school, got in, went through the first semester, and I realized like after getting my bill at the end of the semester, I was like, "Dude, this is so expensive."
What was that bill?
Oh, so the first school it was 17 grand, and even going back in state to Florida, it was around 12.
So you had been out of state so long, you were starting to get in state in that.
Yeah, yeah.
What state was that?
Georgia. Just
Georgia.
one state away, yeah.
So you spent so much time in Georgia, you're finally getting in-state tuition for Georgia,
Right.
and then you move back to Florida, and it kind of screwed you over a little
Yeah.
bit because
Yeah, because at
though
that
you
point
were,
they were like, "Yeah, you're becoming a Georgia resident at this point. You have a Georgia license.
yeah,
Everything's established in Georgia. Why would we want to give you Florida residence and you're gone?"
damn,
So
isn't that kind of fucked up?
yeah, so I was in Florida for 20 years, 20-year resident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
I moved away for school.
my thing is, it's like it's all these 18-year-olds, right?
Right.
And you don't have a fully functioning brain yet,
Yeah.
and you're trying to make the best decision for yourself, and you decide to leave and go pay money, and then
You have
pay
all this debt. You don't know how to pay it.
yeah. And then if you leave the state you're from too long and finally start paying less tuition because of that, in state, now if you decide to go be back closer to your family, they're like, no, 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 no,
No,
no.
yeah, I want that money. Yeah, and that's a lot of education's driven by money.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to pay so much money for even trade schools.
Yeah.
I know that's a big thing right now.
Yes.
That's a,
My brother's becoming a welder right now. And
Yeah.
then my friend Christian is a home builder.
yeah,
He
it's
is.
good crafts.
He's good crafts, yes. But with everything, you got to put this money up front,
Mhm.
sign your life away a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah, just a little bit like the military.
Yeah. So you got your bill
Yeah,
for.
got my bill for. I was going into I was gonna go into my second semester of my junior year, and I got this bill, and I was like, dude, I can't keep. Like at this point, I'm looking at my student loans. I'm just seeing it rack up, rack up, rack
Yeah.
up. And me and my wife, well, my fiance at the time, we were sitting down. I was like, dude, like, what can I do right now so that way we can put our best foot forward, and what's a good trade out? So went and talked to an Air Force recruiter, went and talked to a Navy recruiter. I mean, this Navy recruiter was hungry.
Yeah.
Like, as all recruiters are, but this dude is particularly hungry.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't guarantee you corpsman because I know you're going to school for nursing, but we'll try. We can get you to MEPS. And I talked to the career person at MEPS, and he was offering me everything but corpsman. I was
Yeah.
like, I want corpsman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're like, you sure that's what you want? Because I was getting like, ACF, I was getting AB diver,
Mhm.
air rescue. And I was like, nah, dude, I just want corpsman because I want to continue to see if I really want to be a nurse or a
Yeah.
healthcare professional. So that's where I went.
Yeah. And how was in processing into the military, the Navy specifically?
Boot camp or MEPS?
Whatever.
Oh, dude, it was just...
I had my issues with both.
yeah, I know. MEPS, MEPS was so laid back. And I think a lot of people who, when they initially get to training, they get so shell-shocked because
Mhm.
they're like, oh, they were so nice to me at MEPS.
Mhm.
And when I show up to this processing unit at the beginning of boot camp, why are they yelling at me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Boot camp's only as hard as you make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really care. I'm some 20-something. I've been through college. I'm not a high schooler. I don't have these cliquey,
Yeah.
I've grown up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll play the game, I'll get out of it, I'll go home.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
yeah.
I find the military is easier for people that are half with it, like
Right.
have a little bit of a brain,
Right.
and then are you're about 6 foot, right? 6'1".
Yeah. 6'1", yeah. On a good day.
People with a longer stride, I feel, do better too, just because
so
life's a little bit easier for the 6'1" guy instead of a little half squat about this tall. It's
Yeah.
got to do 5 steps to your
Cadence
one.
is all-
Yeah, and I feel bad for those, especially in the Marine Corps when they're trying to get up them hills, man.
Yeah.
We had in School of Infantry, we had this kid, we called him Upham,
Yeah.
like the coward in Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Kind of a shitty nickname. I didn't give him that, but the instructor was like, "What did you just call yourself?" "Private Upham, sir." And he's like, "That's fucked up." Anyway,
Yeah.
come to find out, his recruiter gave him an '03 an infantry contract because he was so small he thought it was funny.
Really?
Fucked up.
That's
Yeah,
fucked up.
fucked up.
That's really fucked up.
Yeah, so boot camp is kind of right?
Yeah, it's super depressing. The first 4 weeks you're stuck inside.
Y'all's boot camp is very depressing.
It's so bad. Like
And
you're sitting there, you're doing touch and goes because
Mm-hmm.
you're in these classrooms and they're making you drink all this water and you gotta pee all the goddamn time.
Yeah.
And it's when like even like we experienced in core school, boot camp could really be like a month long.
Yeah.
Core school could have been out of the 4 months we were there, could have been 2 months if they were not lazy.
I want to know what happened to self-paced.
I think, like all good things, they got rid of it because people were just clicking through.
Yeah.
And, like now we have access to Quizlet.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was a Quizlet.
But it's interesting because I don't feel like I learned anything at core school.
No, I didn't.
And I asked nurses, good nurses, Michelle Anderson.
Right.
You went to nursing school, right? Yeah. What applies at nursing school here? She goes, I don't remember any of that shit.
Right.
I learned everything new on the job.
Right.
So my dad said something about my dad's a business owner and he knew another business owner he was mentoring. But the guy had already had a couple successful business, but he was talking about hiring B college students. He goes, I want to hire people that have college. I don't want straight A's. I want B because you struggled, but yet you got through it. You're not a C, And I've heard that about like doctors and stuff. Like you don't want an A doctor because he's gonna talk to you, and he's not gonna listen because he knows everything. Maybe who is it? Downey.
Dr. Downey.
Dr. Downey's just gonna
That's
fucking
a
talk
perfect
straight
example.
at you, and then you don't want to see because that boy might
miss something like a
might miss something, but who? That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he watches.
I don't think anyone. Yeah, so the 5 people that will actually watch out of the 15 subscribers, it's okay.
Yeah.
Sergeant Williams, I know you're out there.
Yeah.
I believe in you. Yeah. So what was it about the Navy? Was it because you're a swimmer that kind of attracted you to the Navy, or?
With being a swimmer, maybe boot camp really disappointed me. The 3 hours we got to swim in the entirety. I thought it was going to be like, we're going to go to the pool every week.
Yeah.
I felt super jealous for the prep guys.
Yeah.
I got to see them in there doing a whole practice, going long course.
I've mentioned this though before, and I've talked to you about this.
Yeah.
800 series, the special warfare guys, their punishment was not doing anything, was sitting still, because they didn't want to encourage the wrong action getting rewarded with a workout, which is a reward to them.
Right.
But in the Marine Corps, that was not the case.
Opposite, yeah.
There was some dudes, I met them in the laundry room. Like one kid was like, I used to be fat. Look at all this skin, dog. And I was like, what the fuck? He's like, I've been IT'd incentive training where they drill you. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he had 196 sessions. I was just like, oh, y'all made this a game. And that's when I started kind of would do something in order to get myself in trouble. Like I got a little bit more mouthy towards the end of boot camp.
Oh, okay.
Go figure.
Yeah.
So did you think that the Navy would have more swimming?
Yeah, I thought it would.
Why not the Air Force? Air Force is on our brain because we have a civilian that went Army. I think he went Navy for a week.
Yeah.
Got out of that and went Air Force, and he's just like, dog, gotta do Air Force, man. We're over here thinking oh shit, man.
Yeah. So like I said, my Navy recruiter is hungry.
Hungry.
Yeah, he's a hungry dude. But also a good dude. He didn't. He didn't screw me or anything. But man, if I could go back with you, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
If you could go back, we'd all be bajillionaires.
Yeah.
I have to say this. For me, all my recruiters, Marine Corps recruiters, and there was 2 of them. One dude technically got, and I'll say this credit to the second dude. One dude got, what's it called? He got credit for my enlistment, but the other recruiter took my folder and made it go all the way through because the first guy got credit and then he PCS'd. And then the other dude took me all the way through, really good, solid sergeant. And then the way it works for Navy for special warfare, you have a special warfare scout.
Right.
And he's kind of a recruiter, but not really. And then his friend was an actual recruiter. They were both SWIC, and they both worked together and fucking got my shit done. And I was really thankful for those two dudes. But in that, I went on recruiter's assistance after Marine Corps boot camp, and there were some sergeants sweating to get recruits. They were putting a big strain on them, and they were lying about shit. And that's why you get people that are all fucked up in the military now, because these dudes need a quota.
Yeah.
Were you around for the Navy recruiting where they actually started closing down the offices? Did that happen to you in Florida?
No.
So, when when I was going through the process of going in the Navy, I remember showing up and they're taking all the posters off the wall.
Really?
I was like, "What the hell's going on here?"
Yeah.
He's like, "We're trying to do everything remotely, like through video conference and all this shit, and the only thing we're gonna do is like basically pick you up from MEPS and get you tested and then like drop you back off."
No, and I think my station was pretty good because, so here's our station, right? And you have 3 high schools in a triangle ready to go. So they're feeding.
Yeah.
They're able to get their quotas. And then you got people coming off the street.
Yeah.
And ironically, we had a conversation about this, and right next door was Officer Recruiter. You could have just easily said, all right, go take your packet next door.
Yeah. That's what I hope this podcast can provide for maybe like one dude.
Yeah.
Is just a little guidance on not feeling pressured to do something that, not getting car salesman,
Yeah.
Because I know a dude that's in SWIC that's bound to make it all the way through. He's trucking right along, and he showed up. I met him. He's like, "Yeah, I want to do fucking SEALs." 6'2", young kid. He has it. He's making it through SWIC. And what happened is he went to MEPS, took the ASVAB, didn't get quite the high enough score he needed for SEALs.
Right.
They gave him the car salesman, "Hey, this is going to be gone if you don't come back." Right. So he wind up letter of intent.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Basically signed on the dotted line that he's going to go into the Navy, and the clock started ticking. I was like, "No, you just need to go retake the ASVAB." And then the recruiters are like, "Yeah, you could have, but you enlisted."
Right.
And so he didn't get stuck, but now he is
He's on the right path.
He's on the right path, but he's in SWIC. The only thing I hope doesn't happen for him is he doesn't get, to the end of his career and go, "I should have been a SEAL," or have this want, or what does happen is some SWICs say, "I'm like or I am a Navy SEAL." Not saying this person will say that, but that people do tend to. Like when I went and took my ASVAB for the Navy, I'm always the last fucking person in the room, but I get done and this dude's in blueberries and he's just like, "All right, man, you did good." I'm like, "Okay," and I get my score. And then I was like, "What the fuck? What are you doing?
Yeah.
What is your job here?" And he's just like, "I'm assigned to MEPS." I was like, "What's your regular job?" He's like, "I'm a diver." I'm like a SEAL, except I don't use a gun. I was just like, all right. I mean,
Yeah.
And I know someone that went 2 buds, didn't complete it, and then became a diver. And he and other people that are SEALs are like, "Yeah, so dive school for divers is just second phase."
Right.
Second phase, which is,
you learn all your,
how to be comfortable underwater, not to freak out, bolt up top, get the bends, different shit like that. How to keep calm, tread, and all those different things. So that's interesting. I just, I'm a big advocate of being who you are, not saying, I'm like a blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, man. Where do you hope to go?
Duty station wise or career wise?
Whatever.
Well, right now, sitting in the queue is Hawaii. Hopefully those will go through.
Oh, so...
Hopefully they'll go through.
There's
still some hope that I can go to Hawaii.
Okay.
If I get to go out there, hopefully I can try to put up a package.
Hmm.
There's there's MISA sort for us to go to nursing or
If you had a magical wand, but you still had to work for everything,
right.
what would be your path? Civilian nurse? Do you want to be the civilian nurse that's in the ER?
Oh no, I don't be. They're lazy.
Because, dude, they make good money,
they
though.
make good money, but they're lazy.
But they're not hardcore Baltimore nurses, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I remember because I used to work at a level 1 trauma center. I mean, those nurses busted their
How was
ass.
that?
It's,
Did you see more doing that than...
oh,
Did you?
100 more NVC stabbings, gunshot wounds.
I was always perplexed about, like, how you knew how to navigate a chart.
Yeah.
And you're just like, bro, I've done this. I'm like,
Well,
what?
yeah. And also our hospital used to use Epic online charting. It's a software.
Why don't we?
There's a couple reasons why we don't use it.
Because every program we use crashes 5 times a day?
Yeah, we're using an inundated system right now to put in orders.
What's that mean?
Very
We're using DOS?
Yeah, so we're using like 1998 Microsoft Word to put in our orders.
So confused.
Yeah, we're putting maybe even older Windows.
One of my buddies from core school was a bud stud like me.
Yeah.
And he said, this is very a friend of mine's uncle's brother, story. But he said he read an article and he believes it was the Fortune 500 or Forbes or something like that. And he said it was all about the Navy's structure and business model was 200 years in the past. It was so barbaric. That almost doesn't make sense to me, but in a way it does, because the Navy of the past, you do something called frocking.
Right.
Completely should be eliminated because we have communication with a boat. That's
Right.
the only reason it would be.
Yeah, and I think that's just because they're trying to stay with the old time traditions.
Old traditions make sense for I don't know. They don't make sense, honestly.
Yeah.
If they're out of date and they
Find solutions to it.
so frocking is, you say you got promoted normally, not meritoriously,
Right.
Maybe for me.
Yeah.
I get promoted and my test scores weren't in the top 10%, right? I would get promoted to the next rank but not paid within 6 months.
Right.
And if you get demoted within those 6 months, you wouldn't get the next promotion and you would bust down to the so it's basically taken 2 away from you, which has happened to sailors. You know that?
I don't know.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
That people got NJP'd or captain's mast during their frocking period and they basically lose 2 ranks. They told me that during my DRB.
Oh, well, good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like, are you supposed to be an E4? I was like, I believe so.
Yeah.
And he's just like, so if we busted you down, you would lose 2 ranks because you're technically an E3, but you might supposed to be an E4.
Right.
I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah. Oh no, I didn't know that. No,
Yeah. So that's
Well, that's an interesting thing. So there's this whole thing with the Navy trying to put out like Sailor 2025, right?
I don't know anything about this.
So Sailor 2025 is supposed to be how how we go on My Navy portal,
Mm-hmm.
and now they made it super easy for us to be able to find everything.
My friend said that has not existed in the last 2 years.
Right. So they're trying to make it super easy for us to go in and do things, and that's why Sailor 2025 is supposed to be us, the Navy, moving to the future, which we'll see.
That's what Chief Walker told me.
Yeah.
He was like, ain't about cupcakes no more.
Yeah.
It's not about volunteer hours and which I understand. And I think the Marine Corps maybe should do a little bit of that, but it was never encouraged, because what I did for my volunteer was I became a volunteer at a fire department without any restrictions. Like, I could come and go at any time. I interviewed a whole actual job process.
Right.
And for people to see me do that and go, oh, those people in the Navy sure are, outreaching in their community and get, by association, giving a good reputation to the Navy.
Right.
That's pretty good, because Marine Corps is fucking awful about that. It's always Marine Corps fucking killed this, fuck that, raped this, DUI into a, orphanage. Like, it's pretty comical how bad Marines fuck up. But So they're trying to move away from all that nonsense in 2025.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know if we can get rid of the bake sales, because
They're so embedded in.
I think. So I think it's one of those things where it's like, we have our corner ball every year,
Yeah.
and if the command says, "Okay, go fund yourself,"
Yeah.
now you got GEA now has to do that with the junior enlisted. They gotta go be bake sailors selling $7 Chick-fil-A sandwiches.
Yeah. We have a mandatory ball in the Marine Corps, at least when I was in,
Right.
and I never had to do one single iota of trying to raise funds.
Right.
It literally came out of our budget for the year,
Right.
and so what our CO would usually do is our hall we would hold it in depending on the type of deployment we were doing. He would go with a cheaper venue. We
Right.
went to like a fake Las Vegas, which was like an hour away from Vegas, and did like some rink dank place.
There you go.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. The
Yeah.
Navy's
Well, even like with us, like, if we're going to cornball, we have to pay tickets. Then we have to.
you had to buy
Well,
buy your ticket.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you see our tickets are $30, $30, $40.
they're like $50
Oh,
in the Marine.
and-
It's all based on your command,
Right.
and it's supposed to be open bar, but it's not open bar, and it's silly.
I don't know. I haven't gone to one yet. I don't think I will. I don't want to.
I haven't gone to one. I don't think I will. I do know that once I'm back in the Marine Corps attached to them, I most definitely will go to
Yeah.
the,
Yeah, 'cause
the
this
Marine
is
Corps
gonna
ball.
bring back old
They're
memories, yeah.
so like I remember asking a girl when I was in California, like from Louisiana, do you want to go to this ball with me? And they're like, what's a ball? And I was like, it's like what fancy people do,
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like what the wasps do.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I think just me having to be like on my P's and Q's.
no, it's not
Oh,
that.
okay.
It's not. You
Never mind.
think it's that,
Yeah.
but you get to see a very rare side. Like I intentionally went up to my sergeant major and my CO and like kind of gave him a little. I didn't like do anything bad, but like I was like, I want to make him. I told myself and I told my friends I'm gonna get a picture shaking hands with the CO and the sergeant major. I have them, but I remember my buddies were like, yeah, let's fucking go talk to him. So we walk up to the sergeant major, and like he just had the gift of gab, my buddy, and he's just like, well, hell, man, if you run for president, I'm fucking voting for you. He's like, oh, thanks, fellas. And like we're smoking cigarettes. You're not supposed to like really smoke in uniform. And we're like, oh, sorry, Sergeant Major, don't NJP us. He's like, I got this big stogie right here. You guys don't worry about it tonight. And yeah, it's a big shit show. You have to really, really fuck up in order to get NJP'd. And honestly, I never heard of it. Only thing I've ever heard was someone from a different division showed up to ours. He's like, I almost got NJP'd because I sword fought with my saber.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah? He's like, yeah, they didn't like that.
Yeah, I don't think they would on that.
Yeah, so they were always a good time. You don't really have to, like the first one I ever went to was very booty boot. And like your seniors kind of relax around you, you're relaxed around them. And then my lieutenant was like, oh, call me Chip. I'm like, I will not call you Chip,
Right,
but good to know, sir.
Yeah, that was just like the nurses at work that call me my first name. That gets me every time.
Well, Lieutenant Kessler, I called her ma'am, which I've called her from the very beginning. Her and Chapin, all of them, lieutenant or ma'am, And she's like, what did you just say? I was like, ma'am? She's like, why are you calling me ma'am? I was like, because it's the proper customs and courtesy for an officer. She's like, and I was waiting for her to be like, do not call me that, because then it's a little different. Like, hey, do not call me, Colonel blah, blah, blah. Call me Tim. I'm not going to get that, but I know that certain officers do call him Tim.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that's the bird right there, man.
Yeah.
You call him the bird Tim?
Oh. I guess. Oh, no.
The Russian dude calls him Tim.
Whoa.
What's his name? Chernobyl's. Yeah, Chernobyl's calls him Tim.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think. I can't remember, but I'm pretty positive. Yeah.
Good for him.
You know how Dr. Dennis got her job?
Oh.
She used to outrank Colonel Barron.
No.
Yeah.
No way.
They came up together. Yeah, she made Colonel before him. And then he contacted her. He's like, hey, we need a doctor. She's like, all right. She's cool. I got to know her.
Yeah, she's a very good dog.
Yeah.
I would love to see her come on the ER side and not be over there.
I think a couple of them have anger issues.
Well, we all have some.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. We should have a podcast going up there for them.
I know, the girls are going crazy up there.
Yeah. Well, shit, man. What else? Yeah, so Ominous Dominus, you have a wand. What would you do?
I don't think I think my time in the military is it hasn't peaked nor has it gone down yet. So I don't know. We'll see where we go. Definitely just nurse and then get more educated with it. The end goal is to at least be a nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
And but here's the thing, what we can tell guys like on the outside if they're gonna come in, like let the military pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is literally, I think it's inside of the commission that they have to like make you go to these schools to better yourselves. Not like us, where they're like, it's encouraged for you to go to get a degree, but you don't have to. But it's encouraged for them to go get their master's, go get like if you want to be a critical care nurse, if you want to be, if you want to go into the ICU, PACU, if you want to do the med surge type of stuff, or you can be just a regular floor nurse.
Yeah.
So, and, the officers seem to have it pretty good.
They do.
Even though, enlisted at our command have it pretty good too.
Yeah.
But, that's just another level of comfort, I guess, that the nurses have.
Oh, the nurses, yeah.
Well, the officers in general have.
So, if you could wave a wand, would you go through nursing school? Would you go to Hawaii? Would you, get them to pay for, because your apprehension for becoming an officer nurse in the Navy would be they're going to pay for your school,
right.
But that time in isn't going to go towards retirement, as well as you will observe for 8 years? 10 years.
10. Yeah, so me and my wife, we talked about it, and I think right now the goal is finish this contract, go to nursing school on the outside, and come back in.
I would suggest reserves.
Yeah.
Because my brother said it. I was way too done with the Marine Corps to comprehend it. We ran into someone at a bar that said, hey, you should do reserves. I didn't do it. And then looking back, so I was an E4. I took a step back coming in the Navy. Now I'm an E3, 6 years of service, not much to show. Whereas people stay in the reserves, make a steady clip towards the next ranks. But you can be that paramedic dude, whatever his name is.
Oh,
that's an E6 with no warfare.
Right.
No pins, no quals, asking an E3 how to become a CFL.
Right.
And I'm just like, what have you done? But he's an E6.
Yeah. Well, their quotas are a lot easier, too.
Their quotas are, I think, auto-promote up until, E5, right?
I think the last cycle for corpsmen to make third was, I think it was 28%. But
instead of, 130?
What?
I'm sorry. I did the opposite. We're manned 130%.
Right.
And we promote in the 0.05%.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was 33 people last time.
33 people.
33 people out of I think it was 12,000.
No. I thought that was meritorious. No.
No, because we definitely.
Was it 300 people meritorious?
It was 250, I think.
So okay, the numbers are flipped in my head.
Yeah.
It's 250 meritorious and 36 people regularly promoted.
Yeah.
Which those people are probably on their 5th exam.
Yeah,
have a bunch of awards. And,
yeah, those are the guys that have been in they're hitting their high tenure.
Yeah. Who
will have so many P&A points, probably have education points, probably have war points, and they just had to smoke the exam at that time.
I know what sucks is my good conduct I got from the Marine Corps doesn't count anymore.
Really?
Yeah, anymore.
Oh.
It used to back in the day, good conduct. But, nah. What are you going to do, man? I don't want to take any exam ever.
I know, those things they make you feel so stupid after.
Yeah, they're so broad, man.
Well, yeah, you can't just be like a respiratory, NAC and then expect to know dental.
Yeah, well, I think dental should be its own
That should be its own rate.
It should be its own rate. Pharmacy tech, own rate. Because it's not like you're going from pharmacy tech to FMF.
Right.
It's not like you're doing any of this shit. You are.
Well, I do know a couple pharmacy techs that went FMF.
They made it out?
Dental. Yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
They're lucky.
Yeah, I have a good friend over in Hawaii right now. She went dental, FMF, Hawaii.
When I quit Buds and they counsel you afterwards, they ask you a couple things. They say, first thing they ask you is, do you want to come back? Oh, no. Did anybody do anything to you to make you quit?
Right.
Do you feel like any instructor, like, treated you unfairly? And like, no, this is on my own volition. And then the second thing is like, do you want to come back? It's like, dude, I quit 5 minutes ago. Like, but do you want to come back?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I have a question. If I come back, like, I want to be a corpsman. Can I come back as a corpsman? They're like, yeah, but don't be a dental tech.
Right.
Because you're not getting at a dental tech. You're not getting at a, pharmacy tech.
Yeah.
The chief in SARC that I talked to said he was a surge tech, and he made it. His detailer said he wouldn't send him back to Buds, and he went into the beginning of what is SOIDC.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah, he is. I don't know the guy, and I don't know the other person, but Chief Wrangle, he is Chief Wrangle's peer group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they're both chiefs.
Yeah.
So.
R.I.P.
He's not R.I.P., but.
Yeah, no, I had him as one of my
I had to call.
core school. That was.
I had to call him Chief Select Wrangle at my DRB. I was not stoked about that, and then I think what was going on is because he was in chief selection, they were like, hey, we want you to have a point. Right. We want you to make a point in this DRB. And he was just like, did you lie? I was like, yes, but he's like, but initially you lied. I was like, yes, but on my own volition, I came back and told the truth. He's like, but initially you lied. I was like, and the MA behind me was like, Chief Select. I was like, yes, Chief Select. He's just like, okay, I just want to point out to everyone that he lied. And I was just like, you're doing super cool things right now.
Right.
I can't fault him for that, but he was a prick to my buddies that were in the program at core school and kind of did them no favors and, in fact, did them disservice. So that's why I'm not a fan of him, but honestly, he could be a great dude.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, from the little I had him before he became Chief Select and ultimately Chief, I had him for a couple labs, and
I heard those dudes at once we left core school, they established that if you make it into the what is that, SOC-P?
The SOC-P, yeah.
That you're in the SOC-P class.
Right.
And all SOC-P instructors are your.
Right. So Team 8 initially was the SOC-P instructors, right?
Yeah.
So like we had the one chief that was a diver.
Mm-hmm. The funny dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, the dude is hilarious.
Yeah, he's super funny. Who else did we have? We had H1 Riley, H1, Chief Wrangle, had H1 Garrity. Who else do we have? We had one more. I'm forgetting his name right now. But then they switched it up and we got all new instructors towards shipboard.
Yeah, we had 3 sets of instructors about.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have like your intro instructors and they eventually go away.
No, so we must have been the first class that did the whole Kipper instructors, the entire course. Because I remember there used to be Alpha Block, Bravo Block, Charlie Block. And you got a different instructor different instructors for each.
Yeah, one, like...
Because I know we had different instructors for like shipboard, TCCC.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. It was all a blur, man. I drank a lot.
I'm gonna go back. No.
Yeah, dude, when I was on my way out, I asked a question and they were like, Cretan, you ain't coming back as a fucking instructor, man. We're not letting you.
Yeah,
I was just like, man, in 7 years, y'all aren't going to know who the fuck I am, bro.
Yeah. You got your face plastered on the wall.
Yeah, that would be some shit. Just like,
if these orders ever come through, just turn them down.
Yeah, but dude, honestly, if everything else doesn't work out the way I want it, I wouldn't mind being an instructor there because I love San Antonio. My wife's from there,
Yeah, I mean, it might be different not as a student.
Yeah, well, my one of my buddies that got kicked out of the SOC-P program and eventually processed out of the Navy, he was on hold there, and his job eventually was to run a gym. And he said our instructors showed up and they're like, Liam, what are you doing here? And he's just like, oh yeah, like I'm on fucking hold. I got kicked out of that program,
Right.
and now I'm here. I'm getting processed out. And they're like, holy shit. I thought something like that happened. Like, well, dude, just like the best of luck, man. And like, this is one of those dudes that were dick to us. And
really?
yeah, you know, it's a facade.
Yeah.
And during clinicals, that same guy Liam talked to this one dude that was taking us to clinicals. He's like, "How come you're not an instructor?" He's like, "I don't want to have to put a facade on. Like I'm, you guys are good. He's like,
Right.
too relaxed for that shit, man.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I don't know. I think I would be a good instructor. Trying to
yeah,
give the best to those kids. Because, God, those guys were. Some of them were really bad giving false information.
false information. Then also you gotta take into account that you also dealing with some people that shouldn't be at core school.
Or
IQ.
Well, that and a lot of people have never done any of it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's why I think that self-paced thing was offered to people that were like, prior paramedics, nurse
Right.
school, and things like that.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know why they got rid of it. Maybe there weren't enough those people coming in.
I think they got rid of it when they moved from
From Great Lakes.
from Great Lakes down to San Antonio, where they brought everything into that curriculum.
I wish they would have honestly given us, because we were fortunate enough to go not straight to a Navy command. We went to a joint command.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would have let us be joint going through the program.
It was Navy and Air Force, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I wish they would have kept that.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do, man?
Yeah, it is what it is. Apparently it's working. Apparently they're turning out good people. But.
Yeah, I think it's what I honestly like even about SEALs is like, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. They're like, all right. And I saw that in core school too. They're like, I don't like this shit. I don't want to be here anymore. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And they either roll them back a couple, they let them get their mind right again, or some people they're just like, all right, you're not meant for the military, and they process you out. I think that should be done more often. I was telling Jones, she's like, yo, this is bullshit. Like, she's talking about quotas and stuff like that with how to get promoted and
Right.
and I was like, yeah, there's too much fat in the middle. Like, literally, super duper overweight people,
Right.
people that don't put any effort, And she's like, yeah, I thought they were, and it's not only that, but you have malingers, you have, limited duty people, you have all these different things. And she was like, I thought they were going to do the whole, two BCAs, two PFAs, and you're
Right.
done.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, Gonzo, who honestly, he's one of those people that like, he's a big boy, but he's not,
He's not doing it on purpose.
He's not doing it on purpose, but like, look at Gonzo, 6'2" Gonzo.
Right, he carries it. He carries it very well.
Yeah, and then look at other people where you're like, dude, you're 5'6", 300 pounds.
Right.
Like, boy.
Yeah.
So, and he's at our command, his second shore station, because he failed to.
Right.
They're going to process him out, and then they're like, oh, no, you're going to do all 5 years. And he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And then they're going to hire tenure him out.
Right.
And he's going to get like 16 grand. And he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I think he should be a firefighter. My buddy from the Marine Corps is a firefighter, and he fucking loves that shit.
Yeah. I think he'll do good at whatever he chooses to do
Yeah.
after he gets out of the Navy.
I like him. He's a cool dude.
He's a hard worker,
Yeah. He's funny as fuck.
Yeah.
Well, your drink's dry.
Man, I ran out about 20 minutes ago.
You want to call it?
Yeah.
We did about an hour.
Yeah. I got air in there.
I'm Blake. This is Dwayne, Security Clearance Podcast. The three of you that are watching, we thank you. Like, subscribe, or don't. I don't give a fuck. And hope this comes good over your speakers. Later.
Good, man.
Yeah, I did record. Cool.
There you go.